Well, hey, you found us for a third week.
We're back.
There's hope. And just because you were smart enough and lucky enough to find us here on Small Biz Big Ideas, we got another special guest for you. This one is the incomparable Tommy Marks. Um, Tommy Marks has put together quite a career, both serving our country in the military, and also doing very big things as it relates to small business at the federal level. Um, and I just have to say, I heard of Tommy before I ever met him, and it was like when you hear I saw Superman. I ain't seen him yet. Does he exist? Oh yeah, no. He's really out there.
He's real.
He's it's real. So, Tommy, Charlie and I are happy to have you. And by the way, I am contractually obligated to say Charlie Derador has the best head of hair in small business.
I got it cut at a small business yesterday. Thank you very
There you
much.
go.
Got your ears lowered. Um, so to kick this off, Tommy, tell me, across your career, what is kind of the one big thing that's kind of a through line for all small businesses, in your opinion?
Well, I think out the box, as an entrepreneur in a small business in that arena, you got to determine what it is that you want to do. And then when you understand that and be clear about it, you got to understand that it is not an overnight sensation, and it's going to take a whole lot of work. And there probably be more no's than there are yeses. But if that's what you really want to do, like in anything that we put our mind to, you gotta stay with it.
When did you, I sort of like to, when we do these, go background first.
Okay.
Where are you from?
So
What made you join the service? And then when you moved on from the service, what made you decide to open your small business and how did all that happen?
right. So I was
And
born
we
in
have
Orange.
plenty of time, by the way.
Okay,
Yeah.
understand, understand. So Charlie, I was born in Orange, Texas, uh, number seven of 10 kids, and which is a southeast Texas, right on the border of Louisiana and Texas, off of Interstate 10. My family's from Louisiana, so the time I turned 12 years old, my mom, who was an only child, um, I had older siblings that lived with my grandparents as my parents had moved to Texas. And since my grandmother would not leave Louisiana, my mom always found a way somebody was going to be with her. So my time came up, not that I knew it was coming up, that I had to go and live with my grandmother in Louisiana. City boy, Orange, Texas, which is really country in Texas. Uh, Now I'm going to Jeanerette, Louisiana. Sugarcane fields, rice paddies, crawfish, and bayous. And we live 6 miles outside of the city limits. And so uh, it was, I won't say I was devastated because I visited there, but I couldn't just get up and walk down to the 7-Eleven store anymore. Uh, and it was just me and my grandmother. But what I tell people today, that saved my life, because most of the guys that I was growing up with in Orange, Texas, were either incarcerated, and I'm 71, I turned 71 on Monday, or they're dead. And even when I was younger, that was the case. Uh, and so I didn't realize, sometimes we don't realize what our parents are doing for us at the time. But
Right.
my mom sending me to stay with my grandmother uh, was the best thing that happened to me. And so I end up in Jeanerette, Louisiana, and this is in 1966 when this took place. And she and I lived together till I graduated from high school. I got a little tuition scholarship from McNeese State University to run track, and that's how I got through college. And between that and ROTC, following an older brother who still lives today, that I always wanted to be like him, and he was in the Army. And so I joined Army ROTC, And when I finished, got commissioned, got that butter bar. Uh, I was married got married before I finished college, uh, and was a young father even before I left high school. And so I was on a mission that I had to stay focused because I had somebody to take care of. And so my wife and I have been married now 50 years, been together 55. And so with three grown kids and 6 grandkids. And so I took the commission, really a 2-year deal. I said, that's all I'm going to do in the Army because I want to be a football coach and a PE teacher and teach driver's ed because I majored in health and physical education. And so with a minor in science. And, but I said, okay, I got a little one to feed. And by the time I graduated from college, I actually had 2 little ones to feed. And so taking the Army commission was, there was no second thought, but I was only going to do 2 years. I was a reserve officer. Like they don't do these contracts anymore. Reserve officer with a 2-year contract. But most contracts are really 6 years long. And I know your daughter would tell you that. They're 6 years standard. But I had 2 active duty, and then 4 finish up in the reserves. I get commissioned. I come on active duty. I was one of the fortunate ones or blessed ones as a reserve officer to get active duty with only 2-year contract. And when that 2 years was about up, I said to myself, I'm gonna do just 1 more year because that'll get us to the next point, which I'm looking for some school to go and teach and coach. The Army put a carrot in front of me. I was airborne ranger cadet before I left college, and that helps you through, especially an infantryman, through career thing. So I get this call from my branch saying, look, we got this assignment in Fort Lewis, Washington to be in the Ranger Battalion. There are only 2 Ranger battalions in the Army at the time. And of course, the history of the Rangers goes back to World War II.
Sure.
Merrill's Marauders. And so,
who my father served on detached service with.
So I took
6
that
degrees of separation right
there. You go. I took that assignment, moved my family to Seattle. In fact, my wife, this is how I convinced her. I said, look, we will never, ever probably go back to the Pacific Northwest. This is an opportunity. Here we are from Louisiana. And so packed them up in that little car. We went up there. I spent 18 months as a Ranger. My goal was to get in flight school, and I never stopped trying. And so I got in flight school after I became a Ranger. And I had a lieutenant colonel, my battalion commander. Most infantry guys would tell you, okay, if you don't want to be infantry, don't talk to me. This guy wasn't that way. So if that's what you want to do, you need to follow that path. And so always wanted to fly. I lived at the end of a road where the crop dusters spraying the sugarcane fields.
Fascinating stuff.
Taking off all the time. Going, geez, this would be great to do. So I got an opportunity to go to flight school, became an Army helicopter pilot, and served in various assignments. And then, of course, the Army, what they do is at about the 10-year mark says, hey, you need to do something else. Just about the time you're getting proficient. So I went off to grad school and got a master's in acquisition management. And then, of course, the Army, for every school you get, you got to pay back something. When I was young, I was going, geez, I don't want to go to school and I got to pay you back 3 years for one. But then I started looking at it all counts toward retirement. And so I became an acquisition officer and an aviator. First Desert War, I'm training like a warrior. I think I'm gonna go over there flying helicopters. I go over there with a pen, notebook, and some contracts.
Computer?
Yeah, look, and the computer was not like we have today. Right?
No.
And so that was my tools. And so I was writing contracts in the First Desert War to take care of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, because we all collaborate together. Even then, I came in and finished that up. was able to get promoted to major, got mid-career schooling, and then got a call that, hey, look, you're going to go to assignment in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey at the time, and the actually no, sorry, got an assignment to ROTC after finishing that career school, and Army ROTC.
Yeah, but where?
Norfolk State.
Oh,
Norfolk State University.
Okay.
Norfolk State University. So in 1996, after finishing my combat assignments, I got ROTC. Was a little disappointed because I was at the level where now you can become a battalion commander. That's what we all were striving for. But the Army started downsizing, and so didn't understand when you're down in the trenches, you're not reading the tea leaves, what's happening at the top. So Congress passing a number of laws that say that we got to downsize the Army, and so that meant less people on active duty. And if you got to stay on active duty, you were fortunate. So and that reduced the size of organizations, so you had less commands. So I didn't get command, so I chose ROTC and went to teach at Norfolk State for about 5 years, recruiting and training future Army leaders. And in 2001, I decided to hang up my spurs, as we say in the cavalry, and get out. Right at 2001, 9/11 happened. And I was on orders to get out, and I promised my bride that I wouldn't volunteer like I'd been doing all my career. If they call me, though, I got to go. So the phone never rang. And mind you, I'm a Black Hawk pilot. There's short Black Hawk pilots, but I never got a call, so I didn't pick up the phone. And that was September 30, 2001, when I went on the roads. 2 weeks later, I was in the National Capital Region, signing up for a job that I didn't really want, but I had to feed my family, because you go from full pay to 50% on the retirement plan, which wasn't a bad retirement plan, still not, but it's not 50% of your overall pay. It's 50% of your base pay.
Right.
And so
It's your housing allowance isn't in that. None of that other
nope,
stuff.
none of
None
that's
of
in
those
there.
benefits are in that.
My
Right.
my flight pay, none of that's in there. So, and I put my last child in college in August of 2001, and I went on the retirement rolls. My wife thought I was crazy, but for me, it was time to go. And we've been blessed. The longest I've ever been out of work was those 2 weeks between October the 1st and basically the 29th of October. And I came up here 25 years ago, come October of this year, where we moved up for a job, defense job. And what I tell people is the first paycheck I got that didn't have the Army stamp on it was when I retired in 2018 from civil service. So as you wind that forward, I come up here, I worked for the Army as a contractor, Beltway bandit, and I did that for 3 years. By that time, we were in the second Gulf War. I volunteered. There's a job, folks were looking for somebody to go to Iraq, and I said, when do you want me to fly? The lady almost passed out. They hired me on the spot. Of course, she said, you're overqualified for this job. I said, but you need somebody to go to Iraq to do contract administration. Now, I had already been.
Yeah, that must have been. We're going to get into that later, because that must have been a real crackerjack of a time in your life.
So part of that, part of my the time that a piece that I missed was that in between when I left the combat side of the house and I went to grad school, I did contracting for the government, and I was a warranted contracting officer. And of course, I did contracting in the desert. So, contract administration, I can read what's in the contract and hold people accountable for what they're supposed to do. So I took the job, and deployed to Kuwait and ended up staying in Kuwait. That was 2004, January 6, 2004. And I stayed in Kuwait until September 2010, working for the Army Material Command on a program called the Logistics Civil Augmentation Program. What I describe to people is, if you remember the pictures of the base camps that were built by Kellogg Brown and Root, DynCorp, I was on the team that was the government team as a contractor, then as a civil servant that was responsible for all those base camps throughout the Middle East that were built. And I went from being a contractor supporting that program as their ops officer to the deputy program manager forward to then the program manager as an SES, senior executive officer. And that's how I got my got into the senior executive service. Right place, right time, some blessings, and a boss that believed in me. That at the time I told him, there's no way I'll be in SES, because you just kind of looked at the pattern. You either had to be a colonel. Most folks, if you were in uniform, you were a full colonel or general, came out, and then you became an SES. They flipped you right over. I retired as a lieutenant colonel. My time for colonel got passed over each one of those times because of a lack of if you don't have a command, it's hard. And
Right.
of course, the Army was changing at that time. But there's other ways to serve, and I didn't know what SES was, to be totally honest. Right? I was just in the grind, and so that program was about $40 billion by the time I left there, that we had put as taxpayer dollars that we had put into the Iraq War, and so I was a part of all that process, and then came back to the States, and they decided, hey, you need to go to the Pentagon, and I end up as a policy chief for all acquisitions over $250 million that had to come through my team, and we had to
For the Army only, right?
For the Army only.
Single branch.
For the Army.
Okay.
I had a each service had a counterpart. This is one of these things where Congress had mandated that the services put a senior executive in place in order to manage those type of requirements. The Army was the last one to fall in line. So Air Force and the Navy, they did it off the bat. And so they brought me on board. I replaced another SES who had been there to stand it up. He did about a year and he retired. And then my name got thrown into the hat by a general who I had served with. He was a colonel. We had served together in Kuwait, and we stayed in touch. And when his boss was looking for someone to fill that position, he threw my name in the hat. And at that time, I was working in Rock Island, Illinois. My family was here at DMV. In fact, the whole time I was deployed from 2004 till when I finally came back here in 2012, my family stayed in Woodbridge, and and I moved about to take care of what the government needed to take care of. And that job I was in, that particular job, you had to work with the small business office. And there was a lady named Tracy Pinson, who had served as the Army's small business lead for 19 years. Secretary Togo West actually appointed her. And I'd met Miss Pinson a few times out in the field when she'd come out when I was doing my stuff. And so we ended up working hand in hand. In fact, she was the first person that I got to the Pentagon that I went to see, because, number one, she knew everything about the Pentagon and small business, and it'd be crazy not to go and talk with her. And then we ended up being this team that approved these requirements for the Army at that level. And she recommended, when she on her way out retiring, to the secretary that I replace her. And I had no idea, wasn't even thinking about small business. I was trying to get back, a soldier at heart. I was trying to get back to the operational side of things, even in contracting. You got ops and you got support, and policy is not one of my You know, you do what you got to do. But if you ask me what I'm gonna pick,
You
policy is
want to
not.
go ops. Yeah.
I want to go ops, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I got a call from Miss Pinson. Uh, First of all, I didn't know she was retiring. She invited me to a training event she had annually to speak to her folks. I went to that event, did that, and then one of my folks said to me about 3 days later, Miss Pinson's retiring. She never announced that while she was at the training event. I said, there's no way. So I call her. She's on vacation, but she reaches back to me. I'll talk to you when I get back. So I get a call from her that says, hey, meet me at the Ritz-Carlton over in Pentagon City. That's her favorite spot to go and eat breakfast. So I go over there and I sit down and she started talking. She said, you're being interviewed, right? I said, no, ma'am. I interviewed for what? She said, well, I'm leaving. I said, well, I heard that. She said, well, I'm recommended to the secretary that you replace me. That's how I got the job. I
And how
still
long
had
were you in that job?
I was in that job from 3 years, 2015, April 2015 to September 2018.
Let me get to a question that I know
Yeah, go
Jim
ahead.
wants to ask, and I'm going to jump on it. So we got this vast history now on you.
Mhm.
But 2015 to 2018, you're running small business acquisitions for the Army. Am I
Yes.
correct in saying that? Based on that question, then, based on that response, then, the question is, what does someone need to know who wants to put a contract together to put before any branch of the service, in this case, the Army? Because it is a maze, as I understand it, as I read it. How does the person or group of people who want to do this approach it in such a manner that they got a shot?
Yeah. So I mean, Charlie, you're absolutely correct. It is a maze, but it's a maze that can be navigated. But you have to, like with anything, you have to understand the playing field that you're going to play on. And what most small businesses, those that have problems, is that they come in thinking, okay, I want a contract from the Army, you know, and I will, and what I'm gonna share with you is exactly how the scenarios will go with me on a daily basis. So my office as a small business director was responsible for number one, advocating for small businesses to get work. Number one. Number two was trying to help them understand how to get in touch with the people that had to work. Because the office I ran and the 250 small business specialists that the Army had spread throughout the Army across our major commands, that I didn't supervise all of those folks, but they are all tied back to my office. You couldn't be a small business specialist if I didn't sign off on a set of orders on you, right? As they supported your command. But so um, so in that role, we really was ensuring that small businesses had an opportunity to play on the playing field. So those $250 million contracts requirements I'm talking about, well, if you take the program guy, most of them didn't want a small business to be working on their requirement. They want the big guys. They want the Leidoses, the Northrops, whoever's got that. But the reality is, even those guys started off small. I mean, Lockheed Martin, right, which really came out of Howard Hughes, we know that most of the large businesses in our country were started as small businesses, and they grew. They were in the right place, right time, and most of them that got large, it was based off government contracts and taxpayer dollars, based on a need. I mean, tied back to a war. Look what's happening right now. Okay, so the office and the law that was put in place for small business, period, was to ensure that small businesses had the right representation. So what Ms. Pinson and I would do, an acquisition strategy had to be approved by our office in consultation with another whole nother group of folks to ensure that it had small business representation there. Now, in today's world, under the current administration, what I will tell you is openly they say that they're small business uh, friendly,
Friendly?
small
Yeah.
business supportive, but they're not. They were not in the first administration. They're not now. Because if you read, the SBA has been really gutted, but and the SBA, which is the Small Business Administration, was established to ensure that small businesses, not that they were given work, but that they were given an opportunity to do things. But to answer your question, I know I want to. So what my office and the people that work for me, what we would do with the businesses is ensure that one, they understood what the requirements were in order to do work for that agency. So a question I would always ask folks is, well, I want to get a contract with the Army. Okay, Jim, who in the Army do you want to contract with? Because the Army itself, Charlie, and you mentioned this, it's amazing. The Army itself, right, we have 6 major buying commands in the Army. Okay, 6. So tell me first of all, tell me what is it that you bring to the table, right? So if you're an IT guy, okay, I got you. So, but everybody does IT, but you could be running around, getting dizzy if you didn't understand, where do you want to go? And so our goal as small business specialists, we not only being the advocate for the small business, but being the eyes and ears of the program guys to help them find the right, company to help do the work. And they haven't gutted everything yet, right? And I'm talking about under the current administration, but in the FAR, in the Federal Acquisition Regulation, I mean, there's a chapter 19, there's a small business chapter, and it talks about the things we should.
You got there way before that's a note I had. Ask about FAR. Wow. Okay, there we go. And he didn't just talk about FAR, right, Jim? He goes chapter verse FAR. Here we go. Chapter 19. Please, Tommy, tell us about chapter 19.
So chapter 19
is awesome.
In the big Bible of the FAR, 19 is in that Bible the chapter with all the verses on all things small business, and it guides, and it's a guide, right? I mean, the regulation is a regulation, but it's a guide, and good contracting officers understand that, and they're able to work the guide. Now you have some that they're like this, right? And they won't do this. I was taught by some folks. Look, long as it doesn't break, you stretch that rubber band until you get as much elasticity out of it. So, and as a good advocate, that's what you're doing. And it's not easy because the average program guy, again, they don't want the small business, because especially if they had a bad experience with a small business not delivering, right? I tell small businesses till today, because what I still do today is I work in a nonprofit that advocates for small businesses. And look, you got to come to the table ready, and you got to be able to get in the contract is one thing. Delivering the contract is really what life's all about.
Absolutely.
Because you can get a call. You and I can get a call tonight that said, hey, Charlie and Tommy, we know you do these things. We got a contract for you. And any contracting officer, they can make awards without competition. Right? A lot of times folks like to think, oh, you got to compete it all. They don't have to, depend on the need, the urgency, right? But you get it, now you got to deliver. And you got to be, the term we're using today is you need to be procurement ready. The average small business, when they first come to the table, they're not procurement ready. I mean, they think because, okay, I got my EIN, from the IRS, I got a bank account, I got this. Yeah, procurement ready. You ain't there yet.
You got to have product in a silo ready to roll.
Right, but let's just say you're not even
and you better be ready to deliver as well. I'm assuming, right?
That's the key.
You better have the logistics to deliver what it is that you're selling.
And that's exactly right. even if you're gonna, I'm gonna tell you that there's different ways to do this, right? You have companies that go out, and they're smart enough to win the award, and they pull a team together. And I'm going to Charlie, boom, and when I get it, but we're gonna make it happen. You can do all that. In fact, today they encourage teaming big time. One, because the a lot of the small business set asides and things that they they've had in the past, there's been a major rewrite of the FAR, and under the current administration, and
And I was
GSA.
going to ask you, what does that rewrite look like?
It made some significant changes in areas. So um, the
Is it more restrictive?
no, it's not more restrictive. They actually tried to uh, reduce the amount of red tape, if you will, right? But when you I go back to Small Business Administration and what they're supposed to do, and kind of what the administration philosophy is right now. Uh, y'all heard of the 8A program? Okay, so the 8A program, Charlie, is where uh, if you can prove you were disadvantaged, then this is a special program they put you in, but it's a business development program for small business. And if you got, I think, minimum 2 years in business, uh, your net worth is not, I want to say, more than $2 million. You can get into the 8A program. It's an 8-year program once you're in, and we can take our company in there, and in the 8A program itself, they set aside requirements only 8A certified firms can compete for, right? And those awards can go anywhere from under the small business dollar threshold of I think today is like 250K up to $10 million, right? I mean, you get over 8 years. If you get enough of those, you can build a pretty solid.
Portfolio of work and money.
That's right, and build some past performance. You got some successful 8A companies, and I'm talking about folks that get in it, and you got a lot of non-successful companies that get in it because they don't work the business development piece of the life, right? Because in the 8A
So it's like
program,
anything, it's like any other small business dynamic.
right?
There are more losers than there are winners.
There are. That's right. And those people that are, you know, I guess I can use the term resilient, and they're looking down the road and really understanding what they need to do, or still. I was just on a panel yesterday in DC. They're surviving, and they're not just surviving; they're actually still good, even with all the changes that are going on. And so, in the 8A program, one of those significant changes was that uh, the government, as of 1 March, they terminated certification of 1,000 plus 8A companies, right? And I forget how many off the top of my head they had, but that thousand's gone. But what never happens, or hasn't happened in my lifetime, is as the government reduces their workforce today, which you can tell anybody that you talk to, ask if the mission requirements have been reduced by those agencies. The answer is no. And
Probably
So
probably
does
have
that
more
open the
probably
door
have
for
more requirements.
right?
they do.
Exactly because right. If you're decreasing the workforce inside the house, then the opportunities outside the house increase, I would think, correct?
They do, but you have to be ready, right? You have to be
Right.
ready to, and that's one of the things I talk to businesses about today. They say, well, things are looking so bleak. Well, no, first of all, you got to follow the money. You got to understand where the money is. I mean, the 2027 budget that the president put on the table. Not everybody budget's being cut. DOD 13% increase. DHS, in fact, DHS got the largest increase in the budget that they put on the table. So and even for this administration, I would tell people you got to understand where the money is. back to your initial question. When I'm in the business, I also got to understand where the money is. I mean, just because you want to go to the Army, does that organization have budget for what you're doing? And oh, by the way, are you able to do what they're asking to do?
So Tommy, you've got this breadth of experience, um, both in the military, in the federal workforce, working with the nonprofit now. If you were the grand poobah of small business, and there were three major changes you could make that would that you think could positively impact small business growth, what would those three things be?
Well, I tell you, it's sometimes it sounds like a cliche, and I know you both have heard it that small business is the engine that drives what we do in the United States, and we know it's not a cliche because that's exactly what takes place. Again, I'll go back to our largest corporations today. No, Bezos did not start off as a billionaire in Amazon. I mean, he started with an idea that was a small business, and he hit the right places along the way, right?
He was selling books.
There you go. I mean, Microsoft, that's so all those stories. Now, everybody don't want to be a giant, but one of the key things is our nation having served, small businesses are part of that whole industrial base that we have in order to, like all the planes we fly, all the trucks we drive, especially in the military. I mean, Boeing does not make all its parts, right? I mean, they build the airplane, but they don't make all the parts. They actually they sub that work out to folks that they've cultivated and grown. So one of the things I would do is we still got to grow and cultivate your small business community in order for us to sustain what we do.
But if I'm a small business person and you're talking to me and I'm asking you, Tommy, what are the three things I need to do to make myself successful? Whether I'm looking for a government contract or not. Now, obviously, your expertise veers toward the government contracting sector of the argument, or not the argument of the story. But what are the three things, in your estimation, that a business person who is starting out on their own needs either in the toolbox or to know?
Right. So first and foremost, you got to establish what is it that you want to do. Because I'll tell you that there's still too many small businesses all over the map. So what is it that what's going to be your niche? Number one. And after you figure that out, then it's understanding their environment or the sector that you're going to play in. You got to know it. You got to have the education. You got to study that craft, right? So, hey, I want to be an IT guy. Now, how does the IT business work? And Charlie, I'm just not talking military, right? I'm talking the world. How does the IT world work? Because it's more commercial than it is military to begin with, right? And then the third thing would be understanding processes. And a key understanding of the processes is, understanding how where the money flows. And that's whether it's government at the local, state, or county level, or federal level, or it's commercial or private. And if you understand, there's more stuff to it, but if you understand those three, when I start talking about trying to go after a contract to support Charlie, then I've done my homework and I know, okay, number one, what I'm trying to sell
He needs.
is what you need, right? Because if I don't if what I'm trying to sell you don't need, then I've already wasted time, and that happens a lot.
Does it?
I mean, that happens a
Go
lot.
ahead.
Not you know, the government has SAM.gov, which is the big repository of where everybody in the government puts their requirements, and uh, not every requirement in the IT arena that I do fits what fits me, and you have to understand when you're reading those things that goes back to knowing the environment that you want to go play in. And I mean, I help companies routinely, and some of them they think they're on the path uh, to get something good, and then when you start reading it, it says there's one or two things in there that knocks them out from the bat, especially on the government side. Uh, if you're talking about working with DoD, and this stops a lot of our small businesses, chances are you might need a facility clearance. A facility clearance that's secret or top secret SCI. Sometimes that's not right up front, right? So you got to know where to find those things and understand how to read those solicitations and things that come out. And so if you don't have a facility clearance, it's a chicken and egg with the government. You can't get a facility clearance unless you have a contract that requires that. You can't get the contract unless you got a facility clearance, which means there you go. So, but what you have to do is
Chicken egg.
you have to find someone that already has a facility clearance.
And bring them on board.
No. This is you and I got to find a company that has a facility clearance that will sponsor us, give us all we need is one FTE, right? So they bring you on board, Charlie, and we work in it, and then we go on board as a company, and that's the process. And now the government can do whatever they want to do, so they got some rules that they can do that around without that happening. But on average, I've got to find a Jim Moyer who has a facility clearance already. He signs me as a subcontractor. All we need is one FTE, and you do successful work with it. At the same time, after that, you can apply, and chances you can get a clearance.
And Tommy, I think you just said something very key, and that is a lot of small businesses, their heart's in the right place, but and I do not say this in any pejorative manner. Folks have got to learn a process and then they got to follow the process. You are
Yes.
not bigger than the process. You're not smarter than the process. You're not faster than the process. The process is the process. Now,
Yep.
if you meet people along the way who want to help you through the
Right.
process, that's always great.
That's
But
right.
any small business listening, as a former contracting officer, as a guy who's done this for a lot of years, the process is the process. If someone asks you for 5 documents, don't give them 4. Don't give them 3. They asked you for 5 documents.
There you go.
Give them the 5 documents that they asked for, because when you don't give it to them, there's a long line of people who have 5 documents.
Right.
They're going to turn their attention to the people who have the 5 documents.
Follow instructions.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
One of
another
the
thing
first things we learn as kids.
Yeah.
that I would add is that most small businesses want to come out of the chute and prime with anybody. They want a prime contract. That's really hard for first time out of the chute for small businesses.
Yep.
With the government. What I jokingly tell folks, last time I was in Louisiana, a dollar was still a dollar. The value of it might be different based on the stock market and all that stuff, but I said, so a prime dollar from a prime contract, you get paid by the government. If you're a subcontractor, you're gonna get that same dollar. And you need to build past performance. That's another key with government contracting is unless there's somebody that knows you and gonna give you an opportunity, and that's in one of those special categories. You either are eight, if that's gonna happen, you're an 8A company. You may be a straight small business, but you may be a service-disabled veteran, and you're in the right place, right time, and they're gonna give you a prime contract. But more times than likely, you're gonna sub so you can build past performance. Now, the government at one point would not give credit for subcontracting past performance, which was stupid to begin with, because first tier subs typically were the ones that really doing the work for the prime. And, especially our big guys. I mean, they win the contract, but they're subbing most of that work out. And, why wouldn't you give credit to that small company for doing that work? So now, I mean, so that was a rule that changed when I was still serving. And so first tier subs must be given past performance credit by the prime. And the prime can be held accountable for not doing so. And so, but those are things, you only learn when you start getting your feet wet, in the business.
So you haven't discussed capital. And
I was going to mention that, but go ahead.
No, well, then you go ahead. I mean,
No,
let me
no.
ask
What's
the question out of ignorance.
No.
Okay, because I'm talking to two guys here who have done government contracting and been on both sides of the line of scrimmage there. If I'm in need of capital to deliver whatever the deliverable is, and I don't have the capital, do I have to prove to the governmental structure that I have the capital and can deliver? Or does the contract allow me to go take the contract to the bank and say, or to whomever the loan is coming from, and say, I have a contract? Is that contract the
collateral?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a real estate guy, so I thought don't say collateral because that's a real estate term.
No. Collateral is the right word.
Is a contract a piece of collateral?
So it can be. So Charlie, when I said I was going to say something about,
I really do. This is great.
No. When I said I was going to say something about capital, you know how you're thinking when you asked about those three things. Capital popped in my mind early on. Look, so there's no requirement for you and I to prove to the government, unless they write it in the solicitation, that prior to award, you must demonstrate that you have the capital to perform this. Right? There's not most contracts are not written that way. The government assumes that we came procurement ready because we said we answered all the required questions that was on the solicitation. So when we get to solicitation, what they're evaluating, you do sign it that I'm financially stable, right? And they're not asking how much money you got, but so we're going for a $10 million contract. We answer the questions on how we're going to perform the contract. Sections L and M are the key in the 90-page document that you get in a solicitation. L is the evaluation criteria, and M is the and I might have them backwards. Is the L is the instructions, and M is the evaluation criteria. And I'll reconfirm for you. But those two sections, when you're putting a proposal together, you must answer the mail there. If you answer the mail there, boom, hey, you got the award. When we were first talking, I think even before we came on, one of the thoughts you generated a thought about how small businesses do certain things. Well, and I said, winning the contract is one thing, but that's not the big thing. Is being able to deliver. The first phase of delivery is, I just got awarded a contract. I got to transition in 30 days with an incumbent, which means I got to have a team of people, right? Which means I got to start paying people. The government does not front money. You win a contract, $10 million, they ain't giving you anything until you start delivering on the contract. So what was the plan once we won? And how we going to get staffed up? Those types of things is what we run into sometimes in businesses. And you know, real world. I've had a couple businesses call me, hey, look, I just won this contract. Oh, by the way, they got a phone call from a contracting officer because they were 8A, and he could award it to him directly. He'd been working that contracting officer. He gets a call. Contracting officer says, hey, come by, see me tomorrow. Awards him the contract, and he's got to start in 30 days. I get a phone call. Oh, Mr. Marks, you know, I need to figure out how to get some capital. Well, first of all, it's too late to be trying to figure out how to get capital after the award. But we made it happen, right? Because the number one of the, you know, I say the number one of the biggest barriers is the fact that small businesses and their access to capital is not as great as is always Achilles heel. And so being procurement ready, Tommy needs to have a line of credit or something established. He's got a banker behind him, understanding that, hey, look, when I win this, now I can go to Mr. Moyer and, hey, we got this contract. And then, hey, and the contract can be used as collateral if you got the right financial advisors and bankers behind. They got one called fractional financing. It's the last one they want to do, but folks have used it, and they use that for what it is at the time, and as they move on and get more successful, they get out of that. You know, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. You know, people mortgage their homes to get the money that they need in order to get it rolling until they can get that contract going. But the government doesn't. I mean, I have not seen many. You know, the real large contracts. There'll be something about a dollar figure that we've got to show we got this in house. The average contract, the assumption is that I'm procurement ready and I'll be able to finance the contract once I get it. If you can't, then what happens? You know, you're gonna lose it. You're gonna lose it.
Does the
So it's
government pay
not
net
good for
30?
you.
Does the government pay net 60? Does the government pay net 90, or does the government pay whenever they want to?
That's how it feels sometimes. You have small business.
Right.
It
I mean,
used
it's
to be
an
net.
important, it's an important thing for our listeners and people watching. If they're thinking about creating a small business that's going to do business with the
Oh
government,
no.
whether that government be state government or federal government, in this case, federal
Right.
governments, because that's where your expertise lies, to know.
No, what I can tell you, it used to be net 30. It's now net 15 by law.
Okay, didn't know that.
Now, are people meeting that?
And it's and a very important thing to know is it has to be essentially your invoice has got to be correct, because
That's right.
that's another failing. People
That's
think,
another.
oh,
Yeah.
I'll just throw my invoice in there and then I'll sort it out later. And it's like, no, it's an
Right.
accepted invoice, and they're not going to accept an invoice that they don't deem to be correct. So that's
Right.
where a
And
lot of people get caught
that's right.
unawares doing that.
Absolutely. In fact, I mean, and you can find what's supposed to be in that invoice, what they require in the contract.
Absolutely.
But you got to read the contract, right, and understand that. And clearly, when you're a small business, you're back to I'm the CEO, the CFO, and and all that good stuff.
Right.
But yeah, it's net 15, and that was put in place because what was happening was the primes, they would get paid, and most of the small businesses are working as subs, and then the sub wasn't being paid, and so there's a lot
Never
of
heard of
folks.
that happening.
Oh yeah. And so enough people went to Congress. They changed it from net 30 to net 15, and contracting officer can hold back. It used to be contracting officer could not ask the subcontractor anything without going through the prime. And so a lot of that stuff got hidden that subs weren't being paid until enough people spoke up. But now, as a contracting officer, hey, I can talk to anybody that's on that contract. I can talk to, and yeah.
So Tommy, as a vet, who you probably seen tons and tons of veterans who've gone out, started their own thing. What advice would you have for veterans, since that's the fastest growing, that's one of the fastest growing blocks of small businesses,
Right.
are businesses being started by veterans? What's some advice you would throw out to them?
Yeah. Well, and not just the veterans. I say anybody that you're talking about uh, starting a business, and I will tell you that wasn't even part of my mindset when I retired. Um, the you've got to do like anything we've done in our lives in our adult careers. You have to prepare for it. You just can't. It. You know, you didn't get the degree by not going to class. So you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to start a business, you need to study up on what that is, what that means, even if you think you got the best idea, because your idea is one thing, but putting that in motion and dealing with the real world of business, especially if you were a salaried guy, right? Everybody ain't cut. Another thing, everybody's not cut out for it. I mean, the we like to think that you can take, especially military guys. I think part of some of the mindset that I can take the skills that I had here, and I can convert those to a business. And in a lot of cases, in some cases, that's true, right? I mean, if you're a doctor, right, it shouldn't be a hard swing to do what you did in the military and do it in the civilian world. Now, being a doctor is one thing, but running a business is something else. So, and that's why most doctors do they go out and they hire a management team to help run that office and all those things, because you had to do that stuff when they were in the army. I mean, so for all of us that were, the guys, those skills that are most likely to convert over, guys get out and want to open a restaurant. Well, you may have run a dining facility in the military where everything was kind of put there for you, and you go to the computer and you order the stuff you have to order, and you got the team of people that's working with you. Now you got to run a restaurant establishment outside. It can work, and there are a lot of
It's a
successful
whole lot
people.
different. It's not a little different.
Absolutely.
Because I'm sure if you're in the Army and you're a cook, let's say you're the sous chef, not the lead chef in a kitchen, right?
Right.
Let's say you're the second chef, and you're responsible for orders. Not your money buying the lettuce,
Right.
right? When it's your money buying the lettuce, when it's your money buying the limes, and let me tell you, the limes are $72 a box now.
Okay.
Think about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know the real cost of goods because we developed several restaurants along the
Right.
way. And so I talk to my restaurant operators now more than I ever have because of the cost of foodstuffs going up due to many factors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure if you go to the Army and you cook, well, I mean, the lettuce is whatever the lettuce costs.
Right.
Limes, whatever the limes cost. But when it's your money going out the door, it's a whole different ball game
Oh,
because
absolutely.
you have to change the whole paradigm of what you're charging
Mm-hmm.
for a dish with a lime on it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make it up on that dish, or you got to make it up somewhere else.
Understood. You're absolutely correct.